National Science Foundation-funded geologists have found a way to unlock the secrets of our planet's inner core, using residual seismic energy that comes after major earthquakes to probe deep beneath the planet's surface. University of Illinois and Nanjing University in China geologists were surprised to find that the Earth's inner core has a distinct inner core of its own. The properties of the inner core, which is smaller than the moon, could tell us about how our planet formed. The team used a technology that gathers data not from the initial shock of an earthquake, but from the waves that resonate like the ringing of a bell in the earthquake's aftermath. The team says the fact that the iron crystals in the inner core are aligned differently from the outer part of the inner core may tell us something about how the inner core has been evolving, and might even hold the key to how the entire planet has evolved. Scientists have discovered high levels of ammonium and iodine, two potentially hazardous chemicals in wastewater from oil and gas drilling, and in rivers in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. While the most recent attention has focused on contaminants resulting from hydraulic fracturing, this new National Science Foundation-funded Duke University study finds that high levels of contamination were found in wastewater, not only from hydraulic fracturing, but also from conventional oil and gas exploration. The team's data also clearly shows that the current overall brine treatment practice in Pennsylvania is not sufficient to remove these hazardous chemicals, and may cause environmental and human health impacts in downstream watersheds. Each year, approximately 28,000 wildfires in the U.S. are caused by hot metal hazards. Fragments from power lines, overheated brakes, railroad tracks, and other metal-on-metal contacts. NSF-funded engineers from the University of California, Berkeley want to better understand what ingredients and conditions make up the potentially deadly spot fires. Using tabletop experiments, engineers tested a variety of metals from welding, drilling, and metal cutting. Combining varying wind conditions and fuels, the team tried to replicate real-world conditions. The metal fragments were then flung into fuel beds of barley grass, pine needles, paper, and ground grass, similar to that found in the wilderness. The team feels the data from these experiments could help computer models better predict fire likelihood, giving land managers and government agencies better tools to take preventive measures. Imagine if the touchscreen of your smartphone or tablet could touch you back. If your virtual keyboard actually felt like a keyboard. A National Science Foundation-funded team of researchers from Northwestern and Carnegie Mellon universities has uncovered fresh insights about how the brain makes sense of haptic or tactile feedback from fingertips. The team studied people drawing their fingers over a flat surface containing two virtual bumps. They discovered that when the spacing of the bumps matches that of the fingers, the brain registers only one bump, even though there are two. The team was surprised to find that separate but identical bumps felt in separate fingers were interpreted by the brain as too coincidental, and therefore registered as just one bump. The team says their new mathematical model and test results on haptic illusions could one day lead to flat screens integrated with active touchback technology, like making a virtual keyboard feel real. The integration of tactile information could also benefit the blind and video gamers. Imagine a bandage that can detect early tissue problems resulting in bed sores long before there are any visible signs of damage. Each year, bed sores affect an estimated 2.5 million people in the U.S. That's why National Science Foundation-funded engineers at the University of California, Berkeley are developing a smart bandage, a thin, flexible film outfitted with an array of dozens of electrodes. A very small current discharged between the electrodes creates a map of the state of the bedsore underneath the bandage. By monitoring the electrical changes that occur when a healthy cell starts to die, the team is able to detect damage before there are any visible signs.
We set out to create a type of bandage that could detect when bed sores are forming before they're fully formed. Before the bed sore is beginning to show itself, even turning the area turning pink or showing that maybe something would happen, we can detect some electrical change in the tissue.
The team says the system can be miniaturized to fit into a pen thermometer and sees it being carried around by nurses for spot checking target areas on a patient, or being incorporated into a wound dressing to regularly monitor how it's healing. The team says the smart bandage may provide an easy early warning system before permanent damage occurs. Our brain sees familiar words as snapshots rather than individual letters. That's the finding from Georgetown University researcher Maximilian Riesenhuber. He says that neurons in a small part of the brain called the visual word form area respond differently to real words like turf rather than nonsense ones such as turt. Our brain remembers how the whole word looks using something like a visual dictionary. The National Science Foundation funded study involved asking adults participants to learn a set of 150 novel words. Using a specific functional magnetic resonance imaging technique, the team found that the visual word form area changed as the participants learned the nonsense words. After training, the neurons respond to them as if they were real words. The team says this is the first study of its kind to show how neurons change their tuning with learning words, demonstrating our brain's flexibility. The visual word form area ignores how the word sounds, just how the letters of the word look together. The team says this research could lead to ways to help people with reading disabilities. At Vanderbilt University, a team of mechanical engineers has discovered a way to use magnets to make minimally invasive surgery even easier, with fewer incisions. Using magnets outside the patient's body, the National Science Foundation-funded team's technique guides small surgical devices within the abdomen. Today, simple abdominal surgery needs 3 to 5 incisions.
So this would reduce the number of incisions required for abdominal surgery down to a single incision, and also would provide a very large workspace for the surgery to be effective.
The fountain pen-sized device acts as a retractor, moving organs out of the way when needed during an operation. The larger external unit placed on the patient's stomach not only delivers more power to the internal robotic surgical tools, but allows better positioning within the abdomen than the current tools on a stick method permits. Researchers are taking energy to new heights. Altiros Energies is developing a balloon that can lift a wind turbine to heights of 2,000 feet. The novel Buoyant Airborne Turbine, or BAT, hovers higher than current tower-mounted wind turbines to take advantage of more powerful winds. Its helium inflatable shell channels wind through a lightweight wind turbine, generating more than twice the energy of a tower-mounted turbine. The first model will provide enough quick, affordable electricity for a small rural community or about a dozen American homes. It can also be outfitted with internet and sensory equipment alongside the turbine to provide additional services to customers. With funding from a National Science Foundation Small Business Innovation Research Grant, the BAT can be installed in 24 hours, substantially reducing the cost of energy and time to reach customers' energy needs. Altiros CEO Ben Glass hopes to deploy the BAT in the future alongside first responders in emergency situations when access to an electric grid is unavailable. The team feels this technology has the potential to avoid many of the key challenges facing traditional wind turbines. Depression is an illness affecting 350 million people worldwide. One of the most crucial issues is early detection. That's why National Science Foundation-funded engineers at the University of Connecticut are developing a smartphone app to monitor for symptoms of depression in real time. Engineer Bing Wang says there are certain behavior signs like activity, energy levels, and user speech used in detecting depression. The Life Rhythm app gathers data from various sensors on the phone, like GPS, motion, the microphone, to monitor for those signs. During 2 phases of the study, the team will collect data from student subjects living on campus. Wang says these students are under increased stress from being young and away from home for the first time, and make good study subjects. Wang says the study could be a first step to dealing with depression in mass populations and help mental health workers identify depression promptly. Each year, landslides cause roughly $3.5 billion worth of damage in the U.S. Little is known about what happens to cause the soil to change so suddenly from a solid to act like a liquid, sending dangerous debris flowing down a mountainside. That's what a National Science Foundation-funded team of researchers at Duke University want to understand. The team has developed a new way to measure the forces inside materials like sand, soil, and even snow. This gives researchers a better understanding of earthquakes, avalanches, and even landslides' early warning signs. The technique uses 3D imaging, sensors, digital cameras, and the number-crunching power of computers to get a better picture of what happens inside granular materials as they are pressed, pushed, pushed and squeezed. The technique converts hundreds of thousands of cross-sectional 2D slices into a 3D image. By measuring the tiny bends in the particles as they are squeezed together, the researchers are able to calculate the forces between them. The team feels this technique may not only help researchers better understand how sand, soil, and snow change into a deadly force, but possibly even avoid damage and loss of life. It has taken millions of years for humans to master the art of walking, but it seems there is still room for improvement, especially for those who are frequently on their feet and moving, like military infantry or athletes. A National Science Foundation-funded research team from Carnegie Mellon and North Carolina State Universities has developed an exoskeleton device that, when strapped on, actually increases walking efficiency by 7%. The lightweight lower leg device uses a spring and clutch system working in tandem with calf muscles and the Achilles tendon while people walk. Weighing about as much as a normal loafer, it is not motorized and requires no power source. When tested on 9 able-bodied adults, the device acted like a catapult, putting a spring in each step that mimics the Achilles tendon. The energy savings are equivalent to shedding a 10-pound backpack. The team says that while the study shows we still have a lot to learn about biomechanics and walking, they hope someday soon to have simple, lightweight, and relatively inexpensive exoskeletons to help both able-bodied people and those recovering from stroke or gait impairments increase walking efficiency. An element of surprise helps babies learn. That's what National Science Foundation-funded researchers at Johns Hopkins University have discovered. The team showed 11-month-old babies both surprising and predictable situations regarding an object. One group saw a ball roll down a ramp and appear to be stopped by a wall. Another group saw the ball roll down and appear to pass right through the wall as if by magic. When the ball surprised the babies by not behaving as expected, they learned about that ball better than babies who saw it behave as expected. Researcher Amy E. Stahl and her team found that the infants didn't just learn more about the object's surprising behavior, they wanted to understand them. The babies chose to explore the object that behaved surprisingly over entirely new toys. And for instance, when babies saw the surprising event in which the ball appeared to pass through the wall, they tested the ball's solidity by banging it on the table. But when babies saw a different surprising event in which the ball appeared to hover in midair, they tested the ball's gravity by dropping it onto the floor. Stahl says that infants are not only equipped with core knowledge about fundamental aspects of their world, but early on they harness this knowledge to empower new learning. Mom really does know best. A National Science Foundation-funded University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign study finds that teens behind the wheel are less likely to take the risk of running a yellow light when mom is in the car. 14-year-old subjects completed a simulated driving task while researchers tracked blood flow in their brains. In one trial, the teen driver was alone. In another, the teen's mother was present and watching. The team observed that teens driving alone found risky decisions rewarding. Blood flow to the ventral striatum, a reward center in the brain, increased significantly when teen drivers chose to ignore a yellow stoplight and proceed through the intersection. A mother's presence killed the thrill of running the light, resulting in more responsible behavior. The teens on average across the sample went from about 55% risky choices when alone to about 45% when mom was watching. The team says the study shows that a parent's presence is actually changing the way the teen reasons and thinks about risk, ultimately increasing safe behavior. This is Harmony, a first-of-its-kind two-armed robotic rehabilitation exoskeleton developed by researchers at the Cockrell School of Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin.
This robot is designed to deliver physical therapy to those suffering from a neurological disorder such as a stroke or spinal cord injury.
The National Science Foundation-funded team designed Harmony to deliver full upper body therapy by moving patients through their full range of natural motion. The team believes the exoskeleton could reduce a patient's recovery time and can be customized to the individual's therapy needs. Harmony's sensors and software give therapists and doctors the ability to deliver precise therapy while tracking and analyzing data. With Harmony now complete, the team continues to develop the software and prepare for upcoming trials. Researchers at Oregon State University have invented a new technology that can increase Wi-Fi bandwidth tenfold, reducing bandwidth problems in crowded airports, offices, and coffee shops. The prototype, called WIFO, uses LED lights to create an invisible cone of light in which data can be received. The National Science Foundation-funded team created a hybrid system that can switch between several LED transmitters installed on a ceiling and an existing Wi-Fi system.
And if the user in that a particular light cone, it will receive the information. When the user move out of the light cones, the Wi-Fi system will automatically take over. And when the user move into another light cone, the system will automatically know that the user is in that light cone and will transmit the right information to that user.
The system can potentially send data up to 100 megabytes per second to each individual user, unlike current Wi-Fi systems that divide the bandwidth between users. The team feels this new approach successfully eliminates streaming stalls and allows WIFO to be cheaply and easily integrated into current Wi-Fi systems. Sleep apnea is a disease that affects more than 25 million Americans. Left untreated, can lead to high blood pressure, stroke, heart problems, and diabetes. Current testing for the disease requires a person to wear a tangle of wires and can be costly and often requires sleeping overnight in a strange hospital bed. That's why researchers at the University of Washington have developed Apnea App, a smartphone app that wirelessly tracks changes in a person's breathing movements. To detect the telltale pauses in breathing, the smartphone speaker sends out inaudible sound waves, which bounce off a sleeping person's body and are picked up by the phone's microphone.
The thing about it is most people that have it don't know that they have it. Apnea App is something that a person can use on their phone in their home sleeping environment that can give them an indication as to whether or not they may be stopping breathing in their sleep.
The team tested the app on 37 patients undergoing sleep apnea studies at a hospital sleep clinic. Researchers put a Samsung Galaxy S4 on a corner of the bed. During nearly 300 hours of testing, the app tracked respiratory events, including central apnea, obstructive apnea, and hypoapnea with 95 to 99% accuracy. Tests in a home bedroom showed Apnea App works efficiently at distances of up to 3 feet in any sleeping position, even when a person is under blankets. By providing a convenient, wireless, non-invasive way for the average person to test at home over the course of several nights or weeks, the team feels the Apnea App could provide a more complete picture of real-life sleeping patterns and lead to treatment.
Apnea App is still in the developmental stages at the moment, but we do believe that Apnea App has a lot of potential. We feel that a very simple way for people to indicate whether or not they have sleep apnea in their home sleeping environment has tremendous potential to help people live happier, healthier lives.
New research shows that more than 90% of the U.S. could eat food grown or raised within 100 miles of their homes. Using data from a farmland mapping project funded by the National Science Foundation, UC Merced professor Elliot Campbell mapped the potential of every American city to obtain food locally. His models simulated land availability from the years 1850 through 2000 and account for things such as range of diets, food waste, population, and croplands. The popularity of farm to table has jumped in the past few years as many now flock to farmers markets to take advantage of homegrown freshness, supporting local farmers they know and trust. While growing populations and suburbanization have caused a decline in local farmland, Campbell found there is still enough land to assure that eating locally doesn't have to be a passing fad, especially in major coastal cities. New York City, for example, could feed just 5% of its population within 50 miles, but up to 30% within 100 miles. The greater Los Angeles area could feed as much as 50% within 100 miles. In some cities, the numbers vary depending on plant or animal-based diets. Campbell says one important aspect of food sustainability is recycling nutrients, water, and energy. He feels that using compost from cities to fertilize our farms would make us less reliant on fossil fuel-based fertilizers. His maps provide a foundation for discovering how recycling could work. The team says that careful planning and policies are needed to protect farmland from development and encourage future local farming. It seems humans aren't the only ones to learn by trial and error. Now robots can too. National Science Foundation-funded researchers at UC Berkeley have developed algorithms that help a robot learn to master simple motor skills on its own through repetition, inspired by human learning. Humans are not programmed from birth to successfully complete routine tasks. Instead, we learn from our life experiences and mistakes, calling upon learning deeply rooted in our nervous system. For this test, the team had a Willow Garage personal robot 2 named Brett perform a series of tasks: stacking blocks, building a toy plane, and screwing on a water bottle cap. The team did not program the robot with details about its surroundings in order to simulate a constantly changing real-world environment. Without examples to solve the problems, the robot scored each movement that brought it closer to achieving the task and was able to learn which movements worked best through trial and error. The exact same software which encodes how the robot can learn was used to allow the robot to learn all the different tasks given. The team feels these deep learning techniques, which enable robots to complete complex tasks from scratch, could someday lead to significant advances in robot learning capabilities. Today, some 95% of children in the U.S. play video games. Now researchers have found a way to bring video games into classrooms that's not only educational, but more fun too. National Science Foundation funded University of Wisconsin-Madison researcher Kurt Squire and his team create educational games based on what excites and engages people when playing games. Squire and his team had students test the games, monitoring how players interacted with each other, and adjusted the games to make them more engaging, effective tools of learning. 2 of the video games, based on fundamental science, challenge players to think like scientists. The first is Citizen Science, a game that lets players explore a virtual landscape and take samples, making observations of a real polluted lake in Wisconsin. Players can also interact with a virtual stakeholder about the problem. The game is designed to foster critical thinking skills, encouraging players to use science to make a difference in the world. The scientific accuracy of this game model has made it ideal for use even in graduate school courses. Duke Forest in central North Carolina is a little patch of heaven, at least to the researchers flocking here from across the country to collect samples. Running continuously for over 5 years, this is one of the largest, most collaborative studies of any patch of forest. What makes this site unique are the heat chambers scattered throughout the forest. The site houses a dozen warming chambers. 9 are warmer than the surrounding forest temperature, while the other 3 are kept at current levels. Scientists collect samples of everything from soil to leaves and ants. They are already gaining insight into how organisms respond to the changing temperature. This National Science Foundation-funded NC State University project has also enabled researchers to identify important features of many species that help them to cope with the warming climate. These shifts in temperature could change every aspect of a forest. The team predicts they will be seeing discoveries from this project for years to come. Malaria, one of the world's deadliest diseases, kills hundreds of thousands of people yearly. One bite from an infected mosquito is all it takes. The single-celled parasite is then released into the person's blood, causing sickness. When other mosquitoes bite that person, they too ingest a parasite that then multiplies, infecting them. After 10 days, the infected mosquito bites and infects other humans, continuing an endless cycle. Now, a National Science Foundation-funded team of researchers at the University of Oklahoma has uncovered a protein called FREP1 that allows a parasite to infect the mosquito. Team leader Dr. June Lee says identifying this protein is a significant step in working towards ways of reducing or even eliminating malaria. High drama is playing out on a very small scale in the frigid waters off Antarctica. Researchers have discovered a 3-way battle over natural resources such as vitamin B12, a precious and scarce commodity in the Southern Ocean. Phytoplankton, which need vitamin B12 to survive, help to form the base of the marine food web by turning sunlight into food sources. An NSF-funded research team found 2 types of microbes that rely on phytoplankton for food and B12 to survive in the remote waters of McMurdo Sound, competing for the resources, leaving a particular type of phytoplankton called diatoms starving for iron and B12. Flying aboard helicopters based at McMurdo Station, Antarctica, the team ventured out to the edge of the sea ice in McMurdo Sound to collect water samples. They then performed experiments on the water at the Albert P. Crary Science and Engineering Center at McMurdo Station. The team says this new understanding of the microbial interactions in the polar ocean will help them predict how these relationships might change in the future. This research was a collaborative effort including Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the J. Craig Venter Institute. Demand for mobile data service is expected to grow by 1,000% in the next 5 years, meaning more wireless spectrum is needed. Signals in the UHF band carry for miles and are not blocked by trees or buildings, making the UHF band prime real estate for wireless data transmission. But in most dense urban areas where the need for more wireless capability is greatest, most of the UHF band is claimed for TV channels. NSF-funded Rice University researcher Edward Knightley has developed Wi-Fi inactive TV channels, or WATCH. The WATCH system actively monitors for a UHF TV channel that is not being watched nearby and uses sophisticated signal canceling techniques to insert wireless data transmissions into the same channel. At the same time, the system also makes certain that data transmissions do not interfere with TV reception. The team thinks technology like WATCH will become increasingly important as the future demand for wireless data services increases and the number of broadcast TV viewers decreases. Advanced technologies have brought text from a 1,500-year-old scroll back to life. The badly burned scroll was discovered in 1970 inside the Holy Ark of the Synagogue at Ein Gedi in Israel. While the scroll is too fragile to be unwrapped, NSF-funded researcher Brent Seals from the University of Kentucky worked closely with the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, and obtained a state-of-the-art tomographic scan. This scan was the basis for Seals' team to complete the last step in revealing the long-lost text. The team virtually sliced pieces of actual scroll to unwrap it. A special software prototype then created a 3D flat surface of the text. The page, buried deep within the many wraps of the scroll, turns out to be the first 8 verses of the book Leviticus. Virtual unwrapping was a collaborative effort among the University of Kentucky's Computer Science Department and the College of Engineering, Brigham Young University, the Creative Group, and IAA's Penina Shore. An NSF-funded research team has developed new technology that automatically tunes powered prosthetics while walking. Until now, in order for amputees to move normally with their powered prosthetic legs, the legs had to be tuned by a professional. The new software allows powered prosthetics to tune themselves automatically and even adjust to changing conditions, both increasing functionality and lowering the costs associated with powered prosthetic use. The algorithm was developed by biomedical engineering researchers at North Carolina State University and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. It can be incorporated into software of any powered prosthesis to automatically tune the amount of power a prosthetic limb needs in real time in order for a patient to walk normally. While in testing, the team found that the computer using the algorithm performed better than the prostheticist at achieving the proper joint angle. They say more work is needed to perfect the technology. From shipping and construction to outer space, origami could put a new twist in future structures. An NSF-funded research team at Georgia Tech found that interlocking 2 tubes in zipper-like fashion made paper structures stiff enough to hold weight, yet able to fold flat for easy shipping and storage. The team says their method could be applied to other thin materials, such as plastic or metal, to transform structures ranging from furniture to buildings to microscopic robots.
So we have a paradoxical kind of structure that is flexible and stiff at the same time. And then we can tailor that flexibility and stiffness.
Using paper, the team tested the unique zipper-coupled tubes and found they could configure structures that could be either flexible or stiff. Polino sees possible applications in many areas.
Civil engineering, we can have them as emergency structures, for example. In robotics, if you actuate the tube, that can be used as a robotic arm. It could have applications in drug delivery, for example. The arm could be used at the micro level to position drugs in the right location at the right time. The range of applications is very large. What we have demonstrated is just the beginning of the idea.
Next up, the team plans to explore new combinations of tubes with different folding angles to build multifunctional structures. The team also included researchers from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and the University of Tokyo. A team of NSF-funded researchers from Alaska and Florida has discovered a new species of duck-billed dinosaur that roamed the north slope of Alaska in herds nearly 70 million years ago. The Agrunala cook pickenses grew up to 30 feet long, lived in darkness for months at a time, and unlike most dinosaurs, probably existed in a snowy landscape. The team from the University of Alaska Museum of the North and Florida State University has excavated and cataloged more than 6,000 bones from the new species. A majority of the bones appear to be from a herd of young animals that were killed suddenly. They left a massive deposit recovered from the Liscum bone bed, a fossil-rich layer along the Colville River in the Prince Creek Formation, in rock that was deposited on the Arctic floodplain about 60 million years ago. The team says the newly discovered species has a unique combination of characteristics not seen in other dinosaurs. Naming the new dinosaur was a collaborative effort among researchers at the museum, the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and local Inupiaq speakers. The name means ancient grazer. An NSF-funded research team led by the Florida Institute of Technology, or FIT, has documented for the first time a population of king crabs that has migrated to shallower warming seas off the Antarctic Peninsula. The team believes this predator could potentially threaten an Antarctic ecosystem that has been crab-free for millions of years.
One of our objectives on this cruise was to try and catch live crabs, so we had some specimens to give us an idea of exactly what species of crab we were looking at. Now this is difficult and has never been done before because the crabs are in such deep water.
The team surveyed the population during a joint U.S.-Swedish expedition involving scientists from FIT, the University of Alabama Birmingham, and Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Using a camera sled towed by an NSF research vessel, the Nathaniel B. Palmer, they documented the king crab population. While the shallower waters nearer the surface currently remain too cold for the crabs to survive, the team found no barriers, including salinity levels or temperature, that would prevent the creatures from eventually emerging on the shallower outer Antarctic shelf.
Learning about the crabs down here is really important to us because we're interested in how the ecosystems and how the communities down here are changing. Now, this is relevant to every other part of the world because we're seeing an acceleration of climate change down here, but climate change is happening in every part of the world. So changes that we see down here eventually we'll begin to see in other places as well.
Because other creatures on the outer shelf have evolved without shell-crushing predators, lead researcher Richard Aronson says if crabs moved in, they could completely restructure the peninsula ecosystem and could diminish the global diversity of marine environments. Long-term studies would be needed to confirm what researchers predict will happen. Scientists and artists team up to better understand your brain on art. Houston conceptual artist Dario Robledo's The Boundary of Life is Quietly Crossed exhibit at the Menel Collection, an art museum in Houston, delves into the largely unexplored history of the human heartbeat. It links together the earliest historical attempt to record and visualize the human pulse and heartbeat. Fittingly, Robledo teamed up with NSF-funded researchers at the University of Houston to study brain activity of visitors as they observed and experienced the art. Over 400 volunteers were fitted with EEG caps, a non-invasive mobile brain imaging device, while visiting Robledo's exhibit. Another 250 children were fitted with EEG caps as they played Minecraft, thanks to a collaboration between the University of Houston researchers and the city's Children's Museum. Many regions of the brain are involved with emotional and aesthetic processing. Gaining a better understanding of these brain networks from a diverse group of individuals could lead to advancements in neurotechnologies intended to restore or enhance sensory processing for those with brain disorders. The research could also lead to new insights in how brain activity shapes the creative process. From gas pumps to restaurants, credit card fraud has become commonplace. The challenge is the existing magnetic card readers use plain text to store confidential information, making them vulnerable. Currently, solutions like credit cards with chips and mobile wallet systems are incompatible with most existing devices, making them costly for retailers to implement. For the first time, an NSF-funded research team at Lehigh University and Northwestern University has developed an inexpensive, secure method to prevent mass credit card fraud using existing magnetic card readers. SafePay works by transforming credit card information into an electrical current and driving a new card-shaped device to simulate the behavior of a normal credit card transaction. It works like this. A user downloads the SafePay mobile application and connects the SafePay device to their phone via the audio jack. Use the device to swipe the magnetic card reader. SafePay then acquires temporary credit card numbers from the bank server, generates and plays a WAV file that drives the SafePay device to make a one-time charge. The app generates disposable credit card information that can't be used more than once. The device is compatible with existing systems, making SafePay safe and affordable for retailers. The team successfully tested the SafePay prototype, performing transactions with a vending machine, a gas station, and a university coffee shop. The team envisions banks freely distributing the very cheap SafePay device to users. Believe it or not, beavers and dams they work so hard to build might just be helping us out. An NSF-funded research team from the University of Rhode Island has discovered that by creating small ponds that slow down the movement of water, beavers actually help prevent harmful levels of nitrogen from reaching and damaging vulnerable estuaries in the northeastern U.S. Thanks to the conditions brought about by the beaver ponds, the team says this process can remove approximately 5 to 45% of the nitrogen in the water, depending on the pond and the amount of nitrogen present. Testing samples from ponds, the team also found high levels of nitrous oxide, a potent greenhouse gas. In order to protect estuaries and rivers, the team feels it's important to preserve these small beaver ponds from future development. Frozen in time, buried under a 17-foot layer of ash, lies the best preserved ancient Maya village in all of Latin America. Discovered in 1978 by the University of Colorado Boulder anthropologist Payson Sheets, it is here at Seren that an NSF-funded CU Boulder research team paints a unique picture of daily life for the roughly 200 villagers who once called Seren home. Researchers have excavated 12 buildings, including living quarters, storehouses, workshops, and a community sauna. But the team feels what makes this site so unique is an amazing degree of preservation. There is evidence of life left behind in marks of finger swipes in ceramic bowls and human footprints in gardens. A road called a sacbe, buried 15 feet beneath ash, also revealed footprints heading south, away from the village. The team believes some of the villagers fled south on this road just prior to the Loma Caldera volcanic eruption that devastated Seren. This detailed preservation has given the team the first clear window on the daily life, activities, and the quality of life of ancient Mayan commoners. Sheets says that it has long been thought that these were top-down societies where an elite class made the political and economic decisions, exacting tribute or labor from villages. But what the team found was very different. At Seren, it seems there was no influence or control by the elites. They had free rein regarding architecture, crop choices, as well as religious and economic activities. Excavations at Seren will likely continue for decades. The University of Colorado Boulder team plans to continue to dig deeper and learn everything possible about this ancient village and its inhabitants. NSF-funded researchers at North Carolina State University have developed a device that allows blind people to better monitor the health and well-being of their canine companions. Until now, this has been difficult to do because dogs primarily communicate through their movements and posture, making it impossible for blind handlers to fully understand their needs. Inspired by his own guide dog, researcher Sean Meelan knows full well the problem of accurately gauging changes in dogs' behavior, especially when guide dogs are specifically trained to stay calm and not draw attention to themselves. Meelan and the team developed a lightweight guide dog harness fitted with a special handle containing electronics that allow users to monitor the breathing and heart rate of their dogs in real time. The first motor, embedded by the handler's thumb, vibrates in time with the dog's heartbeat and increases or decreases as the dog's rate changes. The second motor, embedded near the pinky finger, vibrates in sync with the dog's breathing and increases or decreases as the dog's breathing changes. Fluctuations in heart and respiratory rate are associated with change in anxiety or excitement. While the harness still needs additional testing, the team says their ultimate goal is to provide technology to help both guide dogs and their people. Triceratops has a new cousin. NSF-funded researchers from George Washington University and the Chinese Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology have uncovered a new species of plant-eating dinosaur that stood on its hind feet and was about the size of a spaniel. Named Walaeonceratops wuxiwanensis, it lived early in the late Jurassic period, some 160 million years ago. The find is one of the oldest known of the ceratopsian or horned dinosaurs. Only it didn't have horns, walked on two legs, and was a very distant cousin to the larger horned Triceratops that lived 95 million years later. The species was discovered in the Gobi Desert of China's Xinjiang province in the same fossil bed where an earlier discovered horned dinosaur, Yinlong, had been found. Researcher Catherine Forster says that finding these two early species together reveals horned dinosaurs were more diversified at that time than previously thought. The team says their analysis of the beaked family tree suggests not only were these two species around at the same time, but 3 other lineages were also present, but have yet to be found. In what some researchers said may be an unprecedented event, earlier this month, a pod of perhaps a dozen orcas was sighted in Hero Inlet near the National Science Foundation's Palmer Station, Antarctica. NSF manages the U.S. Antarctic program and maintains 3 year-round research stations on the continent. Chuck Kimball, a U.S. Antarctic program satellite communications engineer, took the roughly 3-minute video from the Palmer Pier about 50 yards away. The video captures the whale's spy hopping, in which an orca swims toward the water's surface and treads water with its head in the air so it can observe prey, and otherwise appearing to engage in coordinated activities as they attempt to hunt the seal. In the end, the seal safely eluded the orca's best efforts. There's some very cold science going on in New Hampshire. An NSF-funded team of scientists has captured one of nature's most destructive forces, ice. Large ice storms are expected to become more frequent in the northeastern U.S. They disrupt lives and damage infrastructure in towns and cities in northern New England, resulting in billions of dollars of damage. Ice also reshapes the forests with toppled branches and reduced tree growth, and changes habitat for wildlife. The team says science is critical to understanding the extent of these changes and their short and long-term effects on northern forests. The unpredictable nature of ice storms makes studying them a real challenge. So instead of waiting for the next big storm to hit, the team created their own suite of experimental ice storms in 8 large plots on the USDA's Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest, a National Science Foundation long-term ecological research site. After a year of preparation, all the team needed was to wait for several consecutive days of cold temperatures in the single digits and enough snow to maneuver the utility vehicles. The team finally caught a break in late January. Using firefighting equipment, generators, and low-pressure pumps, the team directed nearby stream water through 1.5-inch hoses to a second set of high-pressure pumps mounted on utility vehicles. These pumps then pushed the cold water 100 feet into the air, falling back over the forest as a fine mist, freezing on contact. The team iced 8 plots, each the size of a basketball court. The scientists then went to work using wooden ornaments with arms to measure the ice accumulation, hoping for the right amount of ice on each plot needed to create the suite of perfect storms. Having successfully created this ice lab, the team now begins observing and gathering data about the kinds of changes these extreme weather events cause to forests and wildlife. The team hopes this research provides the scientific community, land managers, and the public with greater insight as to the impacts of these powerful winter storms on the ecosystems in the northern hardwood forests. This project is led by Syracuse University, the Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies, Cornell University, the University of Vermont, the University of Southern Maine, and the Hubbard Brook Research Foundation.
We have detected gravitational waves. We did it.
100 years after Einstein predicted the existence of ripples in space-time, today scientists confirmed the first direct detection of gravitational waves. The team says these ripples were the result of a violent collision between 2 massive black holes, a collision that took place 1.3 billion years ago. The gravitational waves were detected at the National Science Foundation's Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, and the discovery was made by the LIGO Scientific Collaboration.
The two LIGO observatories in Hanford, Washington, and Livingston, Louisiana, recorded a signal nearly at the same time, nearly simultaneously, and the signal had a very specific characteristic. The characteristic of, as time went forward, the frequency went up. And what was amazing about this signal is that it's exactly what you would expect, what Einstein's theory of general relativity would predict for two big massive objects like black holes in spiraling and merging together.
This landmark discovery confirms a major prediction of Einstein's general theory of relativity. The team says LIGO opens up a whole new window on the universe. Researchers have found a novel way to shed light on cancer. National Science Foundation funded biomedical engineer Mingjung Chang has devised a way to light up chemotherapy drugs to track where the chemo goes and when it is released. The team feels this advance could give patients and their doctors information on how well and how quickly a medication is working for them. The Ohio State University team first created a naturally occurring amino acid-based biocompatible luminescent peptide nanoparticle and hitched it to the cancer medication. In Petri dish testing, the self-assembled nanoparticle glowed to a blue color to show the chemo's release within cells in real time. The team found that this blue peptide nanoparticle kept its glow for much longer than previously used organic dyes. Zhang said the better understanding of the complex interactions between cells and drugs is critical to development of treatments that are finely tuned for personalized and precision medicine. Animal testing is currently underway. Deep sea exploration is getting a helping hand. National Science Foundation funded Baruch College marine biologist David Gruber and Harvard engineer and roboticist Robert J. Wood worked together to design and fabricate two new types of soft robotic grippers. The grippers would aid in the deep sea collection of fragile specimens like coral and sponges that would otherwise be destroyed by the clunky robotic hands usually found on remotely operated vehicles. The new grippers were designed to mimic the dexterity and soft touch of a human diver's hand. The robotics were tested during a recent expedition to the Gulf of Eilat in the northern Red Sea. It has the world's largest and one of the most diverse coral reefs and marked the first non-destructive use of soft robotics for sampling of fauna from the ocean floor. The team feels this new technology could both enhance researchers' ability to collect samples from largely unexplored, fragile habitats and also be useful in underwater archaeology. For more information about these stories, visit us at nsf.gov. This is NSF Science Now. I'm Dina Headley.